We have a lot to get through.
Yes.
But let's start off with who you are and what is Marketing Maven?
We're a full service marketing agency, so we have clients obviously in the housewares category, and we're doing their traditional PR, their social media marketing, and their influencer marketing, and influencer marketing is what we're going to talk about today.
And influencers are huge right now. I mean, they've been big before. It seems like such a hot topic right now, so I'm glad we're going to talk about that. Before we do, you've been all over the place, and Marketing Maven is huge. And I love how you actually you hand tailor your campaigns for each person you're working with. Tell us a little about that process.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a unique goal. Some people's goal is just to have awareness. Other people want to drive sales. Other people might have reputation management issues that they're dealing with. So we like to know what the issue is before we create a strategy. So there's no cookie cutter strategy. Everybody is unique because every brand and every product is unique.
Right. And there comes into the influencer part of it.
Yep.
So let's just hit this right now with the slides and the questions, which is what makes someone an influencer? I've actually been one before.
Okay.
But it does feel like it changes, like the temperature of that influencer changes. So what would you say in your mind makes someone an influencer?
Well, you can be an influencer just in a particular category too. So sometimes there are nutrition influencers, sometimes there are tech influencers, and there are also social influencers. And we define social influencers by somebody who is on one or more platforms. They also have a big following. There are also people called micro influencers, and these people can have, maybe it's just 3,500 people on social media,
right,
and it could be up to, maybe 10,000 or even 100,000, and they're not in the millions, but they're micro influencers, and those people are actually pretty inexpensive to work with. You could pay them maybe $150 to $500 for a post, for an Instagram post, and they're not charging you an arm and a leg, but you can have the rights to the content to be able to repurpose it.
And that ROI is great, right?
Yeah, with micro influencers, it's a good tactic to work with them if you're not budget rich, which is the case for most companies.
Especially younger and innovative companies trying things out.
Yes.
So what would you say the types of influencers brands should work with? Like, is there a specific one that you think?
You want to make sure that you're working with influencers that fit your target demographic. So you could have a target demographic of moms, you could have a target demographic of millennial guys, or you could have a demographic of people who are in college, or it could be the boomers, and you want to make sure that your influencers speak to them directly. So if you are a coffee brand, for example, there are coffee fanatics out there that will market anything coffee. So you can hit the coffee enthusiast, but then you could also hit the business professional, and you could also hit the mom who wants to wake up because she's sleep deprived.
Which happens. That's great. That makes sense. So what about brands looking to drive retail sales versus e-commerce? That's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, when a brand is in retail, there are tactics that you can use with influencer marketing that will allow their audiences to know that your brand is at that retail store. So you've seen unboxings when an influencer takes the product out, and I mean, Ryan's World is a perfect example in the toy space. So Ryan, this little kid, was like, "Mom, look at here's the toy, here's the unique features, etc." But an unboxing for a product that's in retail could be, if you're in Target, you take the product out of the Target bag, you have the influencer on camera take the product out of the Target bag, so then everybody who's watching knows, hey, they just picked up this product at Target, that's where I can go find it. Rather than just doing, hey, I just got this in the mail, let me unbox it, etc.
That's great. Yeah, they kind of put that in their mind, like, oh, Correct. This is the location where it's at.
Correct.
And this is what it looks like.
Correct.
That's great. And by the way, if you watch Ryan's videos, there are bazillions of views, and it's ridiculous. And all he does is open stuff.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
Now he has his own product line too.
Really?
I just saw it at Target the other day. There's a Ryan's World blanket, and there are other Ryan's World products that are being distributed right now.
What is the takeaway from that? Do we have a takeaway on why that happened?
I mean, he made a name for himself. I mean, we work with another influencer named The Gabby Show, and we had her come to South by Southwest with us, with a client, Kingston Technology actually, $9 billion technology company launching a consumer product. They wanted to do we pitched this idea to them to do a road trip, 5-in-1 road trip, launching this 5-in-1 mobile device. We contracted a band who is performing at South by Southwest, 4 band members, 4 performances at South by Southwest. I went out for sushi with the girl Gabby from the Gabby Show. Nobody cared about the band. Everybody cared about taking a picture with her. I could have been walking around with Brad Pitt. Like, everybody wanted photos with her.
What do brands need to do for optimal success with the demonstration of their product by the influencer?
Yeah, so here are some examples. I mean, it's tough to communicate technology to an influencer via a direct message on Instagram, because a lot of these influencers want to be spoken to through the platform that they are big on. So for example, if you're working with an Instagram influencer, you're not going to pick up the phone and be like, okay, so now what I want you to do is now do this and now do that. So a lot of times they'll say, just DM me on Insta.
Yeah,
and
use the platform.
Okay, so you're communicating with them through Instagram, and then you have to give them instruction on how to use this complicated technological product that you have developed, and you want to make sure that those instructions are very clear and very, foolproof, really. So what we recommend doing is creating a how-to video specific to the influencer that they cannot screw it up on a review.
Yeah.
Because if they make it really difficult to do, that's what everybody's going to see, because a lot of times the influencers are unfiltered, and that's why people like them. They'll say, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to use this thing, but it's great, you know? So you want people to know how to use your product, and this is why all of these technical products should have some sort of foolproof instructional video, so you can share a link with the influencer through Instagram direct message.
So you're using their platform, but to give them something that they're not going to mess up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Otherwise, your reviews, it's money wasted.
Like, it's awesome. You should check it out.
Yeah,
and that's all you get.
But you want them to be able to really show ease of use, and everybody can use it. It's meant for your target demographic.
And it's better when they do understand it, because then they're going to have fun with creating their own creative version of how to say it.
Correct.
Right? Like, you have a lot of times where people will get something, they'll use it, and then they'll have their take on it that they know their audience would like, how they would be. So that's great. So how do you keep that influencer accountable then?
Yeah, so this is part of it. The reason why influencer marketing is such a process is because, one, you have to do the influencer identification, so actually finding the person that's right for your brand, then the outreach to them, then the negotiation with them, and then you have to be able to actually do a contract with them. So I'm talking legal contract, because you want to make sure you have rights to that content to be able to use it in perpetuity worldwide.
Right.
The influencer content has been awesome for products that are launching in the US, but they also have distribution in other countries. So if you have a library of influencer content that your international distributors can use, that is like gold, because it can get repurposed in those markets. It's also important that you have rights to use that content, because you want to be able to put an ad budget behind it to further amplify the content.
Right.
So for these micro-influencers, yes, they might have a following of 10,000 people, 15,000 people, 3,000 people, but you own the content for what? $500, and then you can go put $2,500 advertising budget behind it, and guess how many people you just reached.
Have you had a problem with influencers not wanting to do that, or having like
So we worked with Whitney Port. So Whitney Port, I had a client that said, hey, I want her to do a post for me on Instagram. She has an agent, so I had to go through the agency, negotiate the rate with the agency.
Serious business.
Then the contract with them is you can only repost her organic content organically. You cannot put any additional advertising budget behind it. If you do want to put any additional advertising budget behind it, it's an additional $3,000 that you have to pay us on top of the 10. So a lot of the influencers, like if they're big, and she has over 1 million followers on her Instagram, read the terms of the contract, because you might think, okay, I'm just paying $10,000 and that's it, and I'm going to be able to promote it all I want.
It's interesting, you're reading their terms.
Oh yeah.
Which is a different thing.
Yeah, I mean,
not to take us off topic too much, but do you see that as a trend? Like, are more and more influencers like, oh, and I need an agent now. I need to figure this out.
It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because a lot of influencers are not business people and they're not journalists, so they don't know the rules of journalism of like, here's how you cover a product in an unbiased method. Here's how you say
that you're covering a product for a sponsorship or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother issue of disclosures.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive issue, but that's why you also want to have a contract too, is that you are having them verify that they will do all of the necessary disclosures, and that they will have the correct message points about your product in their posts too. Because to your point earlier, you said, hey, if this person talks about the product, they might say it in their own way. Well, you also don't want them to give misinformation about your product too. So you might have a special way of saying something that's a requirement, that if you're gonna give them money to post about your product, they need to say it this way.
In this way. I worked with a company called Anchor, which just does podcasts, and I've done advertisements for them. And all the beginning is like, I can say whatever I want. I can have fun with it. And then it gets to a quote. And we got to hit that quote. So I understand it totally. Let's talk about how a brand measures success for an influencer marketing campaign.
Sure. So brands have different metrics of success, and one of them could be clicks through to the website. One of them could be total impressions. One of it could be just to get the user-generated content to then repurpose it for advertising. It is important that you disclose to the influencer what your main goal is. If your goal is to drive product sales, then they know that that should really be the focus. And they can put in a promo code. They could say like, Lindsey 10, and for 10% off on whatever product. And if they have if they have over 10,000 followers on their Instagram, they have a swipe up function where you can click on the direct URL and go directly to the website from their Instagram. So that's a really important feature to know about, because Instagram stories do really well at driving more traffic to a website, because it's a direct click right there.
And it's interesting how they kind of safeguarded that for you had to have 10,000, and they're like just realizing that that's a great function. It works so well.
I wouldn't be surprised if they up it and say, well, now you have to have 50,000. Now you have to have whatever. So rules are changing all the time.
Rules are changing, and you have to evolve with that as your campaign as well. What are the legal pitfalls?
Okay, so
because I'm sure there's some.
There are legal pitfalls. So you just have to make sure you have a clad iron contract with them. Make sure that you have worldwide rights in perpetuity. Make sure that you also specify dates too. So we like to say we like to have drafted content by this date. We like to have one edit to the content, because if they post something that makes your product look in a bad light, then they'll be like, well, I did my job, but if you don't get the chance to approve it, you just need to verify. Like, I wouldn't go in and nitpick it, otherwise they're never gonna wanna work with you again, but go in there and make sure the information is correct. If there are any tweaks, give those tweaks all in one edit, but it doesn't need to be rounds and rounds and rounds of edits, but you do wanna make sure that you have a specific timeline that makes sense for your brand.
And then finally, what is a way that people can get more information about influencer marketing best practices? We
have blogs and blogs and blogs about influencer marketing. So it's on our website, marketingmaven.com. If you just go to the blog section and type in influencer, then you'll be able to find more information, because there are a lot of things to learn about, like revenue share program and how to repurpose the content and how to
I think it's great that you put it at one location, because there's so many people who are working with influencers now and they don't know like a repository to just go learn all that stuff, because we're making it up as we go along too.
So is the FTC.
Oh yeah, that's true. Which is a whole other discussion.
I mean, people, like the regulation is changing all the time. And each year I go and sit with members of the FTC, and they said, this year we sent these warning letters to these brands and these influencers. So like, you can't use the hashtag SPON, S-P-O-N. You have to use the hashtag sponsored. You can't just do ad, you have to do advertisement, or, so things are getting tweaked as they go. So it is important to pay attention to what are the latest regulations around what's allowed, what's not allowed, because there's also the issue of international influencers versus US influencers.
Right.
Do international influencers have to follow the same rules from the Federal Trade Commission? That's a US regulatory agency.
It's making my head hurt.
Yeah, so it's exciting. It's an exciting form of marketing.
Yep.
It's good to integrate in your social media, on your websites, etc. But you definitely want to make sure that you're following the rules.
And you're up to date on that over at marketingmaven.com. Here's a final question for you. Influencers are obviously becoming more and more important to brands. At the same time, do you see that increasing? And it's like now we're inundated with just all these different influencers, and how do we tell which influencer is more important than the other? Or do you see it like just staying how it is now?
I like to look at their engagement rates, so their engagement percentage. So if it is a low engagement, they might have a huge number of followers, but maybe you shouldn't be working with them because they have a low engagement rate. I'm wondering, is the influencer bubble going to burst
That's
at
what
some
I'm
point?
asking. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a question that I have as well. Or are these people just going to, now they're going to have their own product lines, and now
they're going to be the new, what's his name, the little kid?
New Ryan's World.
Ryan's
Yeah.
World. He's going to have his own product line. Or are they going to become the new celebrity, right?
Correct.
Because they've already become a celebrity.
Correct.
But at the same time, how far does that celebrity go is my biggest question.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be, now I think there are different influencer awards I've seen from different influencers.
Yes.
So will there be the Oscars of the influencers? I think that there is one already.
Well, there's VidCon, and there's a bunch of places where, you go there, and I used to be in this world a long time ago, and more now, it's like all these teenagers, and they are basically the Brad Pitts of the world, right? They're the major celebrities. So it's really good you're doing this work, and it's helpful for every brand to at least understand all the pitfalls and all the things they need to know about. So,
Yep.
Lindsey, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks.